Unless any Lloyd comes in, then we have. Oh, she's here.
Hi. I know, it gets freezing.
I was talking about you all weekend.
I talked about you.
Did you? I talked about you to the birds in my backyard.
I told my
Yeah, Tom, let me shut it. The chainsaw is
I thought so.
a little much.
Why do you say that? Anna loves it.
Anna just really just came in saying that.
It's like a lullaby.
You can't go anywhere else to work either because you're going to hear it everywhere.
All right. We're calling to order today's Traffic Safety Committee meeting. This is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. 1:30. Welcome to the audience. Welcome, everybody. Can we get a roll call?
Paul Tomasi,
Here.
Rob Culver,
Here.
Anna Ginette,
Here.
Ken Wysocki.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, I think I have to read this now. This is new, right? Public comment. Under the Brown Act, public comment for matters on the agenda must relate to the agenda item, and public comment for matters not on the agenda must relate to subject matter jurisdiction of this legislative body, Traffic Safety Committee. If a member of the public attending this meeting or remotely violates the Brown Act by failing to comply with these requirements, then the speaker will be muted. That's exciting. All right. I don't think we have a consent agenda. Oh, the minutes. Yes, that's new. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purpose of the commission discussion and/or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions. We have one item on the agenda, on the consent agenda. It's the meeting minutes.
So, do I include Ken in this roll call since he wasn't here the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
We can't hear you like that.
Okay. Paul Tomasi,
Here.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Thanks, I wasn't here. Abstain.
Okay. Thank you. This motion is passed.
All right. I'll start off after that by welcoming you to the meeting.
Thank you.
I also missed the last meeting. Anna was here, but welcome. This is our first meeting with the three of us, so it's good to see you and have you here with us. We have two items on old business, but I'm going to ask that we not discuss A yet. And this is, I know, Karen, you're in the audience, but I have a feeling when we get through the discussion items, C especially, which I'm also asking you to move up to A, so we can just discuss that right away. I think that'll resolve the old item. If that made sense? All right. Okay. Our first item on old business is to review the effectiveness of the new pedestrian crossing signs and discuss if any further changes are needed at the San Antonio and Jane Powers walkway. Are you pulling that up, or?
I don't have that correspondence.
Is it in the?
It was in the agenda.
Download it from the website.
I have the photos, and I have the correspondence. I think if we recall, this was the Jane Powers Walkway crossing San Antonio. We had a request to put in a pedestrian sign and maybe some advance warning for motorists because vehicles are traveling at a quick pace on that stretch of road. And this is between 4th and the Carmel gate. We have a walkway that crosses San Antonio. I hope I didn't say scenic. And pedestrians are worried about their safety, which is correct. And so we did install on top of the Jane Powers sign, we installed a pedestrian crossing notification for motorists. As they are approaching, they can see it. And it was very well received by the public. But I think there were additional requests made. Isn't that correct, Rob?
Yes, I'm going to pull it up right now.
Are you trying to pull up the Jane Powers walkway
Yeah,
on Google Earth?
Oh, you want it on Google?
No, you don't have to. I don't know if you're.
I was going to get the letter that we received.
Okay.
I'm trying to. It's not loading.
If you don't, I mean, we just go through it, I would imagine.
There we go.
Okay. So we're reviewing this as an old item. Again, we did take action on this by putting up the signage, but we had a response back, especially, saying thank you for doing this. It is making it much safer. And as we get through to the letter, we can see that if you go down to the third paragraph, right, it says, first and foremost, the signs are nice, yet they are only one side. There should also be signs on the sidewalk across San Antonio to allow the drivers coming from 4th Avenue on San Antonio towards Pebble Beach Gate to see you. The street curves a bit there, so the sign facing them cannot be seen until you are quite close to the crossing area. And that was the first request, so a sign on the other side. Secondly, the signs are a great improvement, but we still need to have the marked crosswalk too. And then they have 5 reasons why we need a marked crosswalk. One is to offer better visibility for pedestrians, then allowing people with strollers to be seen, and then slowing drivers down going north on 4th because it's more of another visual deterrent. And then slowing drivers coming the other way from 2nd, and it will make drivers pay attention to pedestrians and stop for them. This isn't, we have discussed this a little bit, and I think, Rob, you can probably speak more to this, but there are crosswalks on scenic. We have those on our other pathways, our other walkways, and it would be consistent here to add that as well, but we have another concern there, and it's the curb that's on the other side of the street. To add a crosswalk, we need to actually take out that curb section. Isn't that correct, Rob?
That's correct. It's also a drainage flow line right where the proposed crosswalk would be. So we'd have to have some kind of a storm drain installed.
So it's a much larger project than just painting a crosswalk, which seems like the easy thing to do. But just putting a crosswalk in there leads people to believe that they can just cross, and it's a real tripping hazard the way it is now. Is there any comment on that? Anybody have any suggestions or thoughts on this? Oh, back up. Right here, you can see the curb. That's actually right where we have a pedestrian. That's perfect. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you with that storm drain. I mean, there's more work to have some kind of, if people are going to walk and you're going to propose that that's a crosswalk, that storm drain as is not, it's just not safe for that. Wheelchair accessibility. I would consider, if we're going to do this, we definitely would have to put, drain on the sides and have it covered on the top, and the drain on each side of that, so that at least still captures water coming down. But that's a concern right there. I agree with you. It's a little bit more work there.
It'd probably be a capital improvement project in the
Yeah,
future if
yeah.
it was something we would do. So I think that's, I don't know if that's something we can do right now. What about a sign on the other side? Is that even possible?
It is, yes, there's this, we can get a post in the corner of this planter with just additional pedestrian crossing signs.
Digging there isn't a problem. There's nothing under there that we have to worry about. We can just put a post in.
That
No,
we
yeah,
know
I'd USA it and
Yeah.
make sure there's
Oh,
no
absolutely,
conflicts.
yeah. Okay, do we have any, I think that covered everything that they were asking for. It was the crosswalk and then the signage.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? So the sign that is there now, it's on top of the street marker that says Jane Powers Walkway.
Correct.
How would we copy that on the other side, or would it be on a pole? Like, how would it look like?
I think I would recommend using a similar style pole so we're not changing.
Yeah, it'd just be our standard 4x4 wood post with
Okay,
the signs.
okay. So then it would just pretty much look just like this one?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody? Any
Yeah,
other
I have a
comments?
question.
Yep.
I mean, we're putting a sign here already that's there, the crossing walk. It's very small. If I, and as you're just saying, public walk in there is just thinking, I have a cross area because there's a sign, but then it's small and cars traveling on that road, I'm not sure how fast they go, 25, maybe they go up to 35. The effect of their safety, and I understand, putting something to delineate and striping would help, but it's more work to do that. Is this the way of acknowledging on both sides from a distance that this is coming up, that there is a sign or there is a crossing area that's been designated, it looks like? There's such a small sign for yielding. I don't know what your take is.
Yeah, I
Chief.
think the last meeting, that was the best option we had because we just didn't see any other way of doing it. I mean, if you put something in the middle, it's going to get knocked down. There's a lot of
Big
trucks
time.
that go through there.
Big time, yeah, true.
It's
Okay.
more of a warning for the pedestrians and the motorists coming. But are you suggesting like signage for the pedestrians to say that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if we're, until the meantime, we could just say caution, crossing traffic or something.
There is currently on the back of this
Yep.
post.
There is?
There is something similar to that wording.
Okay,
Yeah, that's on there.
thanks, appreciate it.
So I'll make well, I got to open it up to the public, huh? Anybody in the public like to speak on this? Hey, Karen.
Hi, I don't use this crossing very much, but it is a de facto crossing, whether we like it or not, and it's not very safe. The 1 or 2 times I have used it, it had water flowing out all over because it was in the middle of a rainstorm. But we can't ignore the fact that it is used daily by people, so it is a crosswalk, but it's not being noticed as a crosswalk. And I think the problem with the curb, I don't think people would mind stepping over the curb. They just want to be safe crossing this street. And it's not safe the way it is. So we have to have some resolution there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point, but I don't know what our expectation is if we put in a crosswalk and it has a big curb on the end of it. There you go. Has to be ADA compliant if we put in a crosswalk, so we'd have to cut out that curb section. So again, that's a little bit more of a project, but I would, for me, I would propose that we put in the sign on the other side of the street as a starting point to continue to alert motorists, and we have the warning sign on the path already for pedestrians to know that traffic isn't stopping. So, is there any other public comment? Sorry. I have to close that, don't I? We'll close public comment. On this item, that's my recommendation, is we add the signage on the other side for now, but we do keep this as a potential project to make it a crosswalk. Anybody want to second that?
I will second that.
All right.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
and Wysocki.
Yes.
This motion is passed. Thank you.
Point of order, just a second.
Yes.
Was there a general public appearance that got open? Because usually there is on things that aren't on the agenda.
Oh,
No?
you're correct. I don't see it on here, though. I don't see it on our agenda.
Because how do we bring up new things?
The public comment.
Public comment.
Order the public comment.
Well, thank you. I've only sat in on like 300 or 400 council meetings, so, and I screwed it up. So, all right, we're finished with old business. We're going to go back and open up public comment for anything that isn't on the agenda that anybody would like to bring up. Yes, you go.
Good afternoon, my name is Hugo from Lido. Last Friday at 1:45, I tried to deliver a package to the post office. So I had to go around, there was no parking. The parking lot was completely full. 5th Street was completely full. So I went up 5th, made a right turn in San Carlos, finally a parking spot by the village corner, walked to the post office. Went right in there. There was nobody waiting to talk, to do anything with the post office people. And there was maybe 1 or 2 people picking up mail. The parking lot was completely full. People were waiting to get into the parking lot. Every parking spot between Dolores and San Carlos was full. So, and that's also 10-minute parking there. So I think we desperately need some enforcement of that. I dare you to park for 2 hours and 10 minutes at the Sports Center in Monterey. They'll nail you every single time. I mean, it's like clockwork. We just need some enforcement to get the parking lot open, folks.
Okay.
Please. It just creates a whole bunch of running around to try to find a parking spot. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Cindy.
Good afternoon, Chair Tomasi, members of the Public Safety Committee. This is the first time I've attended a committee, a meeting of this particular committee, and I did so particularly to welcome the new members of the city administration. And Rob Culver knows, and probably Yvette knows, that Public Works is my favorite department.
Yes, thank you.
But since I've met Ken Wysocki, well, he's head of Public Works, and he's become even more important because he likes agronomy. So we're kind of farmers at heart. But then I got to know this wonderful commander over here who not only loves to garden, but he loves wild birds. So we have bonded. So I think, and Anna Ginette, I have met you. It's lovely having this group in our little city here. And it's been an absolute treasure to meet you all. And I'll see you at the pancake breakfast.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? All right, with that, I'll close. Anybody online? No. Oh, okay. With that, I'll close public comment. But because we're a committee, this isn't a council, we can communicate a little bit more freely. We don't follow the rules as closely, and I like that because we're a small group. Hugo, I'm going to reach out to our parking officer and have him focus on that. It's not the first time I've heard that, and I'll reach out to you directly to let you know what we're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sign is also being obscured by some plants.
The crosswalk sign at the,
The parking lot sign.
Oh.
The hours.
okay.
I was going to bring it up later.
Yeah, that is on today's agenda.
That's on today's agenda, so we can't talk about it. I'm going to ask on discussion items that we move C up to A and just flip those two because I think this is such an important topic and everybody's been waiting for my presentation on it. And C is review a request to implement a traffic study related to establishing four-way stops at intersections, and it should read the commercial district. So if we can fire up this exciting PowerPoint that I put together. I'll go through that to get us going. So there you go. I'm going to give Karen Ferlito a lot of credit on this because this is actually a result of you, why we have this topic today, because we have heard the conversation about San Carlos and Fifth. I've heard it at least a half dozen times on this committee, and I went to Rob and I said, Rob, you've been here twice as long as I have. How many times have you heard the conversation about San Carlos and Fifth in that intersection? And we can't remember. So I started digging through my old files and the old files at the police department to look for how many times this was on the agenda. And what I found was this file, and this is from 2005. Back then you had Chief George Rawson, that was 2 chiefs ago before me, who in 2003, you can click to the next one, Rob. In 2003, the city hired Higgins and Associates to do a traffic survey for the flow of traffic downtown. And it was geared for pedestrian and traffic safety and moving cars and all the issues. Of course, back then it was the Traffic Safety Committee, or we were the Traffic Safety Committee, but it was the Community Traffic Safety Commission. It's changed names quite a few times. It was a commission, so it was more formal, and then we made it a committee because just for history reasons, the reason we made it a committee was through council, because a commission takes a lot more action to get things done. The committee was made to be made up of just the directors to discuss minor traffic things that we can fix so we can get it done really quickly. The only time we really need to go to council is for major improvements and addition of stop signs. That's one of the things that we have to, or an ordinance that we're creating. Then we take it to council. But a lot of this stuff is so mundane, we can just fix it by sitting here and talking about it and hearing from the public. So that's a little history on that. So again, in 2003, we had a traffic safety study with Higgins Associates. In February 2004, the CTSC studied the Higgins report, which included traffic flow patterns in the commercial district. The commercial district is defined as Junipero to Monteverde and then 5th over to 8th in this report. Go ahead with the next one. So the traffic engineer for this was Van Heerden. And they said that additional stop sign controls for intersections in the commercial district, they said we should add them. And this was based on analysis of traffic collision data and then a field survey of traffic flow patterns, all of which is up here on the dais, the original staff report from 2005, all the attachments with the data that they used to make these recommendations. And what they recommended was that 15 different intersections in the commercial district be made into 4-way traffic stop sign controlled intersections. Next slide. All right, let's see if we can follow along with this. These are the 15 intersections that they identified back in 2005 or 4. They agreed with, count the red ones. Well, go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these. The commission agreed to make 12 of these intersections 4-way stops, actually 10 of them 4-way stops, but the bottom 2, Monteverde and 5th and Monteverde and 6th, if you think about those intersections, they are actually 3-way intersections. And they recommended just adding 1 stop sign to that intersection. So the 3 that they did not agree with the engineer on back then were San Carlos and 5th. They disagreed. And the reason they disagreed back then was a report done, which is attached in here, by then the traffic officer, Corporal Steve Rana, whoever most of us know, traffic officer for about 25 years here. He had a lot of concerns with making that a 4-way stop because of the rollbacks with the trucks and the noise, and then manual transmission vehicles kind of rolling back on that hill. That was the reason. I remember asking him years ago why they made that decision, but that was it. And then I found it actually in writing. If you look at San Carlos and 6th and Mission and 6th, those are right by the fire station. The fire station asked that those not be made four-way stops because traffic gets backed up at those intersections, and if they have to roll out to an emergency, they get caught up in that initial traffic flow. So the commission at that time said, okay, we agree with 12 of the 15 of these. So let's go to the next slide, because this is 20 years ago. Since then, this traffic safety committee, if you look, has already converted 6 of these intersections to four-way. We still have the 3 that we didn't do. They're still open. And then we didn't do anything with Monteverdi and 5th and Monteverdi and 6th yet. And the other ones that they agreed to, we still haven't done anything. Safety committee, based on what I've observed and what I know and what I think we should do, and I'm looking for consensus. Go ahead, hit the next one. Whoa, go back one. Never mind, hit the next one. Oh yeah. My first recommendation is we do not do anything at San Carlos and 6 and Mission and 6, and we leave those alone. So the fire department can continue to get in and out. But on the cross traffic, we need to put cross traffic does not stop, because that will improve pedestrian safety. That's a sign that's missing on both the stop signs as you approach that intersection. I drive it almost every day, and every day you have people stopping both ways. Nobody knows what's going on, and pedestrians walking out. So I think those signs added will greatly help in that area, because I see these as the only 2 intersections downtown that don't have stop signs. Go to the next slide. San Carlos and 5th. I don't agree with the commission's initial assessment. Maybe 20 years ago I would have agreed with it. But most trucks, a lot of trucks now are automatic transmission. We don't get the rollback problem. You also don't have very many manual transmission vehicles. Vehicles aren't as loud. We have a lot of electric vehicles that can race right up that hill. There's no run up. So my recommendation here at San Carlos and 5th is that we make it a 4-way stop, finally. Mostly so Rob and I don't have to hear, no, just kidding. Actually, if we do that, we're gonna improve safety at that intersection. Again, over the last couple months, the commander and I have been driving it, purposely looking at this problem, and it's confusing. I will admit it is very confusing to get through that intersection. So I think as 20 years have gone by, the best thing we can do is make it a 4-way stop, analyze it, review it. If we need to change it back, we can. But let's make that one a 4-way stop, along with the other streets that were already agreed upon by council that we haven't done yet. All right, so click the next slide. I don't know what I did here. Oh, Monteverdi and 5th, Monteverdi and 6th. Go all the way down, 6th and 5th, it's a 3-way stop. I don't agree with the commission when they said just make it one stop going westbound on 6th and 5th. I think that needs to be a 3-way stop at both of those, because people are coming up from Pebble and off the side streets, and they're coming around those corners pretty quick, and it's very dangerous. So my recommendation to the committee is to make those 3-way stops as well. All right, let's try one more slide. There it is. Oh my gosh. This is what I've been waiting for. This is those 15 streets. These are what the original staff report had, and this is the new recommendation from me to the Traffic Safety Committee is Monteverdi and 7th. That's been on our committee item list multiple times. Make that a 4-way stop. Lincoln Street and 5th, make it a 4-way stop. Lincoln Street and 6th, make it a 4-way stop. We already did Lincoln Street and 7th. We already did Dolores and 5th. Dolores Street and 6th, make it a 4-way stop. In fact, when I looked at this, I drove around last week and looked at all of our downtown intersections. South of Ocean Avenue, Dolores and 7, where is it? Lincoln and 7, no wait, geez. Monteverde and 7th, the top one, I want to say this. Monteverde and 7th is the only commercial district intersection that isn't a 4-way south of Ocean. That's ridiculous. That's why I said make it a 4-way, but they already recommended that years ago. So let's move down this list. San Carlos and 5th, make it a 4-way stop. San Carlos and 6th, just add those cross traffic does not stop. Same with Mission Street and 6th. Mission and 8th, we already did about 6 years ago. And then Monteverde and 5th and Monteverde and 6th, make them 3-way stops. That's my recommendation. All we're doing is following what the Traffic Safety Commission already did, but we're modifying it and updating it a little bit.
As a point of clarification?
Yeah.
Does this require having to go back before City Council?
Next slide. Total recommended changes, 7 intersections, that's it. And we've completed everything we wanted to do back in 20 years ago, and it's a total of 16 stop signs. Yes, we have to go back to council because we're asking for stop signs to be installed. Even though they approved it 20 years ago, I think it would be a good idea to bring it back to council. The mayor back then was Sue McLeod, and we've had a few mayors since then, so I think it'd be good for them to see it. Next slide. If the Traffic Safety Committee agrees with the proposed new recommendations, a new updated staff report will be brought to a future city council meeting, hopefully July, with a recommendation from the Traffic Safety Committee for adoption. And all of the documents that I presented here on the dais will be attached to that staff report, so the entire council has plenty of time to review it. So if they want to make any changes or don't agree, they can raise those questions at the council meeting. Does that answer your question? Perfect.
I have one more question.
Yeah,
Who's writing the staff report?
I will write. I will copy the one that was done 20 years ago. It's almost perfect. No, happy to write that one and get that in. July would be the latest. I would like to get it in right away, because if we can get these put in, it would be before Car Week, which will really help with the traffic concerns we have during August. Are there any questions? That was a lot of information, I know, but.
It's good. Given that this was approved one time by the board, the council, and you're bringing it back forward just to kind of refresh the council, will this be a consent or non-consent item, since we don't have to go through really an approval to move forward, but a revisit? I'm just curious.
I think I'd like to do it.
Would you like to make a presentation?
Yeah, I'd probably do a very similar presentation to this, just to get the council up to date on it. I think it's been a lot of time since then. I'll have it more polished by then as well.
Chief, while we're visiting this, would we also want to look at adding crosswalks at these intersections, since some of them are unmarked?
I think it's a good idea to look at some of them. We need to make sure we're consistent with the rest of the downtown. Mm-hmm. So that would be definitely a consideration. I don't know if we have crosswalks at all of our 4-way stops, do we?
No, we do not.
No, but the high traffic ones, a crosswalk would be a great
downtown
addition.
would all be a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I'm sure the council.
Dolores does have it. Lincoln does not.
We could add those there because we have the ADA ramps in there now. Definitely adds to the project, but something to consider. I think that would make it a lot safer.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive to add crosswalks, but
Yeah. Probably needed. We can make that recommendation, see if council, that's something council wants to have us do. But safety-wise, I think it makes sense to do that.
yeah, just do it all at once.
Are these already painted red for daylighting? Or is that
Yes.
only required?
Yeah,
so
the
that
the
we
commercial
include it?
district's already been
Okay,
completed.
good.
Yeah. Anything else? Open it up to the public. Any comment?
Well, I am delighted to see this moving along because I think inconsistency creates confusion and danger. And I also would really like you to consider how do we keep two-way traffic from coming down in front of the post office. That is a definite problem, and it happens more than we think. We've had several incidences where people are coming down the wrong way and into the parking lot the wrong way, and then arguing with people that they have a right to park there, even though they don't even have a post office box. So I think part and parcel to this, making that a four-way stop is a great start, but we also need to really figure out if that striping can go in there at the red, where we talked 2 meetings ago, you know, up where you have to put the red up by the surf shop. If that striping can go in there, and just, I think having that be a four-way stop will give the westbound traffic just a little bit more time to contemplate that it's a one-way. So thank you
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
for bringing back the study. I think that the consistency is a winning argument for this. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to dig through the files looking for those old reports.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Nobody?
Shirley?
Oh, Shirley, go ahead.
Shirley, go ahead.
Wanted to make sure that we are still using the wooden posts to install the stop signs. Could you confirm that for me?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
That's
Thank you,
it.
Shirley. All right, seeing no other public comment, we'll bring it back. We want to make a vote to move this forward to a future council meeting, bring it to council for adoption.
Yeah, I second that.
All right. We'll call it.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Hannah Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion is passed.
All right, with that, have we covered the old business letter A and well enough? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, so C is completed. We'll go back to the original A and discussion items. It's review a request for additional no parking signs in the center median of Junipero Street between 8th and 12th Avenue. Rob, you're going to pull this up and
Yeah.
all right. Rob, is this yours or is this, am I taking this one, the lead on this? Sorry.
I did not.
Okay.
No.
This came in as a review of a requested additional no parking signs in the center median in Junipero Street between 8th Avenue and 12th Avenue. I think I'll just start off with, I actually agree with this request. This has been this is one of the things, I don't have a lot of pet peeves, but this is one of mine when I see cars parking in that center island. It's not a place to park. It's not a place for people to drive through and do U-turns, which we see. And we have some no parking signs, but how many do we need? And how do we space it? How do we put them in there where people say, well, there's no parking here, but I can still drive up and park here? I'll be honest with you, every time I drive through here and I see somebody park there, I stop and tell them to move because it really bothers me. I'd love to see something that protects the islands and stops people from parking there. Not only for safety of motorists and pedestrians, but I think it's a real big fire hazard because we get the grass growing up in there and you put a hot engine on that and it's a recipe for a disaster. So I'm glad this came forward to us. I'm open to suggestions, especially from Public Works, on what you think we should do to move this forward.
I'd like to know how far this is, roughly, and do we have a city ordinance or policy about spacing of signs? If not, we'll just do the standard state spacings.
It's such a problem that during Car Week for several years we would put rope up. So we would get the pigtail posts, put those in, and then run rope all the way around there. It was a lot of work, but it was effective because when we didn't do that, we had tons of cars just destroying that area. So I don't know of any ordinance about spacing of signs. We're very conscious about how many signs we put up in in our village. So I think there has to be some thought on that. I don't know if you know of any ordinance on sign spacing. I don't, but I think starting something is better than not doing anything. But do you know how many, I'll bet there's a dozen no parking signs already out there.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if we can move them a little closer to the roadway edge or space them a little bit differently.
Yeah, I'll check the code and see what the state spacing requirements are.
Did I read that right? It's about 1,500
Yes.
feet, so was it like a third of a mile?
Are we still roping it during Car Week? I'm not sure.
No.
No, we didn't. Okay. We're posting it though, no parking.
Yes.
So we post it with no parking signs during Car Week, but it'd be nice to have some permanent posts for the rest of the time. And I know a couple specific spots I'd like to put those signs.
Okay.
Any other comment on that?
I'm assuming there's a need to keep some kind of open areas for emergency vehicles? Or is that, you're not finding that
Not so
necessary?
I think there will be space for emergency vehicles if needed, if the spacing is right, but it's not, I can't recall seeing an emergency vehicle parking on the,
U-turn?
no, not even for U-turns, they wouldn't do it there. I don't have any recollection of an emergency vehicle needing to park on the median itself. They'll park in the roadway and block if they have to, and then we'll direct traffic around. But yeah, I don't think that's too big of a concern, but even if they needed to, there's still space in between the no parking signs if they had to. The problem, and I'm just gonna add to this, the problem is as soon as one person does it, they've created tire tracks and they wear it out, and then it looks like it's a parking spot. So people start doing it more often. So somehow protecting that with no parking signs along the edgeway would really help. All right, any other comments? Open it up to the public.
Well, this was something that I brought up as well because it is my pet peeve too when I see 3 or 4 cars parked because there's an open house and they park in the median. That's damaging the tree roots as well, and the fire danger is paramount. I also know that along that stretch of Junipero, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 house demolitions in the near future probably, and major remodels, and that's a temptation for all those construction trucks to park in the median instead of on the side of the road. So in some sections, there's only 2 no parking signs in a great big stretch. So like you said, they don't park right beside the no parking sign, but they park in between. So I think there are no parking signs are subtle enough, but they give you the ability then to write a ticket, which I think is a very important thing. If somebody can say, well, I didn't see the sign, or the sign wasn't where I parked, that complicates your job in law enforcement. But I think it's primarily fire danger, safety, and also treating the median as a beautiful parkway, not a parking spot. And I think that's important because those parkways make those streets beautiful. And if they're full of cars, they're not as nice. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Nobody online?
We do have people online, but no one has their hand raised.
Okay. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back. Does anybody want to make a recommendation?
What I recommend is for Public Works to do a review and bring a recommendation back to this committee. We'll do a walk and talk and design and bring it back to this committee for concurrence. Want to do it the right way the first time.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I second that.
Yes.
I'm gonna not second it. I agree with you. I already seconded it. We'll take it out, but I just want to make sure that we're committed to marking that as no parking during car week again, so we don't have a problem during car week. But hopefully we can bring this back sooner than later to get this marked with no parking.
You mean like even if it's temporary during car week? Or
Yeah, we do it temporarily during car week. I just want to make sure that that's still in our plans for this upcoming car
And
week.
these are installed?
Yeah, these will be
prior
permanent.
to-
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is during car week, we can put up temporary no parking signs. I just want to make sure we do that. And maybe we leave those up through August because it's bad the whole month or something like that. I know it won't be as attractive, but if we're going to do a study, maybe we can come up with something more permanent. But we want to protect that, especially through fire season, and to make sure doesn't just continue while we wait. I know I added a lot, but yeah. So I agree with you. Already seconded it. I was just adding commentary.
I resecond that.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
This motion is passed.
All right. B, review a request to remove the 2-hour parking in the loading zone on the northeast corner of Dolores Street and 6th. Rob's pulling up that.
Try to get a good view of it.
What's that?
It doesn't want you to get close.
There it is. So, yeah, I know we have comment on this. This is what happened here. This, before AB 413, this was a loading zone already. And it was for commercial vehicle loading and unloading Monday through Friday, but on the weekends, I think we allowed the 2-hour parking, except holidays, or including holidays. But now with AB 413, this needs to either be a red zone or loading zone or a white zone for bicycles, and we kept it as a loading zone. So the 2-hour parking doesn't apply. can allow 2-hour parking there. So for me, this is a pretty easy one. We need to remove the sign and just remove it.
I agree.
Yeah. Any comment? Does anybody from the public have any comment on this one?
I agree.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, okay, so we'll bring it, I'll make a motion that we remove the sign as soon as possible.
I'll second that.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
This motion is passed.
All right, our next item. I lost my agenda. D, we already covered C, so D is review the time parking hours in the post office parking lot. I think I can guess what this is about, but do we have any correspondence on this, or? I don't have anything. I'm just gonna guess, Hugo, did you bring this forward, or Karen, did you? Would you like to speak on this, just to get us, like I said, I think I know what this is about, but.
Yes, you know, we have to go to the post office every day, and we're supposed to only be there 10 minutes. And I watch, and almost every day, particularly on the weekend, the parking lot is full, and there's maybe 1 or 2 persons or no one inside the post office. So it's being abused as a parking lot, and people are not adhering to the 10-minute. People from the foundation are parking there sometimes. Monterey Jack's car, I sent a picture in the other day. It's very frustrating for people who have to go to the post office to have to circle the block multiple times in order to be able to use the parking lots that's supposed to be 10-minute only and for the post office parking. The sign says 10-minute parking from 8 to, I think it's 5. There's a plant that has kind of grown up over that a little bit. And then I think on the weekends, particularly Saturday, is really important. There are people who go to work before the post office opens and come home after it closes. Saturday's the only day they can even get there. And between 12 and 2, it's especially important because it's the only time you can pick up your packages if you have a package. So this is really putting residents at a big inconvenience. And I've seen people just get out of the car and walk away. They're going to restaurants, they're going shopping, they're not doing anything that's only going to take 10 minutes. So enforcement would be helpful down there, start giving out a lot of tickets. But I think the signage could be improved. Maybe it has to be a little higher, a fresh paint job, something like that, just to really delineate that that is only really 10-minute parking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I remember maybe 6, 7 years ago, we added that additional sign because the lot was actually empty on the weekends, and it was, you know, to create additional parking.
For Sundays and holidays, when the post office is closed.
Yes.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Chair Tomasi, members of the committee. I'm Cindy Lloyd. The thing that came to mind is when you are in the post office wanting to post something and the line is long, you're going to be there longer than 10 minutes. So if somebody comes, if an enforcement person comes along and starts ticketing everybody for 10 minutes, how are they going to prove that they were in the post office? That just came to mind anyway. And I will also admit that I have violated that because I will park there, go in and get my mail, and go to the Carmel Art Association to see what the latest exhibit is. So, guilty as
Guilty.
admitted.
Yes. We have anybody else in the audience? All right, so we have somebody online.
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
I just did the unmute. Yeah, I've experienced that problem too. I've had to double park in the street because all the 20-minute zones are full and the parking lots was full. And I walk into the post office and nobody's there. So it's a problem in the lot. As the last citizen said, I wouldn't have a problem with a 20-minute limit or a 30-minute limit. But we do have to churn that parking lot. It's now being used, weekdays and evenings for that purpose. And I know this isn't directly within the jurisdiction of the committee, but it's also a problem with the Chase parking lot. I do banking there, and I have to pull in and double park in the driveway because their whole lot's full, and there's nobody in the bank. So, the post office parking lot is one of the places. I imagine there may be others in town, and I just hope I'm not going to get a ticket one day for having my four-way flashers on to try and go get my mail because all the spots are full. And I do have a 93-year-old relative who now is having to make 2 or 3 passes by the post office on some days because they can't get a parking spot and they're not going to walk blocks away and walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Wells Fargo, too.
Yeah, quick comment on Chase and Wells Fargo. Those are private lots, and they can post a sign that says for Chase or Wells Fargo only, and they can actually have those vehicles towed. There's a muni code for that, so we can do that. And we've gotten plenty of complaints about that, and we'll go out and cite in those lots as well and try to get people to move. This being a city lot, it's a little bit different so they're different. I kind of have some thoughts on this, but I'd like to hear if you have any thoughts on some fresh eyes on this. This has been an ongoing problem.
Well, when I read the sign, I just see it is an open parking because it just says 10-minute parking. So it doesn't say post office parking only. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if you specify 10-minute parking for post office work, however you word it, however it's worded, then you can really focus in on that.
I was thinking the same thing. People will park, I'll only be here 10 minutes, but it ends up being 3 hours or 2 hours. But it needs to let people know it's for the post office, maybe Monday through Saturday, clearly 8 to 5. Sundays and holidays is fine. I don't think there's a problem with allowing people to park there. That's why we added the sign years ago. But it doesn't say post office only, which I think would help.
Yeah. I think it was 2019 we added that. As you can see, it's not there in 18.
Rob, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said, just saying, I think it was 2019 when we added the weekends and holiday sign. This image from 2018 is just a 10-minute sign.
What do you think?
All the what are they called? Roll stops. They're all delineated with 10-minute limit as well.
Yes.
Yes, the parking bumpers.
And I think earlier public comment, there was also an issue with some vehicles not observing that this is a one-way parking lot. So maybe if we beef up this sign, but also add another sign at the other driveway.
Like a do not enter, or what do we have?
Yeah.
Do we have that now?
What was it?
We don't have a do not enter on. I think we do. A do not enter off of 5th.
Yes. There is one.
Yeah, do not enter. And we have the arrows. There.
And then is that sign also a 10-minute marker?
One way.
One way. So I agree with you, Ken, on this. We need to add that it's post office parking only, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. And then enforcement needs to be increased, and that can be one of our community, like our what do we call those, proactive, kind of concentrated enforcement in that area to make sure that we're keeping people moving.
Then I think trimming of the tree.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'll make a proposal. Here's my recommendation. We change the signage to read post office parking only, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. Leave that little one underneath. We clear the sign so you can see it. We trim around it. And we increase enforcement around the post office specifically for this parking lot area. I'll do my best with our limited parking enforcement, but I think that's something we can focus on.
I second it.
Go for a roll call.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion is passed.
All right, the next item is review the need for an ordinance prohibiting electric motorized bicycles in Mission Trail Nature Preserve. I think we have the person who brought this forward. If you'd like to speak on it, you're welcome to. So we're all aware of it, but I think we are, and I'm happy that this is on the agenda.
Karen Ferlito. You know, I'm the president of Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve. So we're in the preserve a lot doing our volunteer work and so on. We are starting to note that because EV bikes can go uphill and do things that pedal bikes can't, we're getting more trail cutting with EV bikes, as well as on our brand new boardwalk, and a bike went through and did a little marking, so now we have black marks on the new boardwalk. We have a neighbor who put up a trail cam and actually recorded a motorcycle along with an EV bike down there. They spit on the trail camera. But we definitely do not want motorcycles in there because a hot exhaust with any of those dry grasses could really cause a conflagration. So that's a problem. Also, these bicycles that are EV powered or motorcycles go a lot faster. We have pedestrians, we have dogs unleashed, we have strollers, we have older people walking there. Commander Trayer was kind enough to look through the Muni Code, and he found that Muni Code 10.40.025 about wheeled vehicles within public parks or pedestrian paths, while it does not say EV bikes or motorcycles, it could. It says it is unlawful for any person to ride, use, or operate any skateboard, skate wheel, coaster, bellyboard, roller skates, or similar contrivances upon any public right-of-way within a public park or on any pedestrian path or on any municipal parking lots within the city. Now, similar contrivances could be EV bikes or motorcycles. So I think it would just, seems like if we just tweaked this Muni Code right here and added EV bikes, because we didn't have them when this Muni Code was devised, it would help. The other thing, I did attend a Tomasi meeting a few months ago where they talked about trying to come up with regulations for EV bikes, because all of the communities throughout the peninsula are struggling with this. And the EV bike, it got ahead of any enforcement. So now we have to kind of go back and look at, oh yeah, that could be a problem. So anyway, I am urging you within Mission Trail Park especially, but all of our parks, if we could update this ordinance, and then that can be posted, and then if we find people there and we report it, those people can be cited. Because as Commander Trayer also told me, there's nothing that allows us to cite people right now. So I think this would be a positive move It would be a fire safety move. It would be a pedestrian safety. And I think it's just the right thing to do is to upgrade our ordinance on this and start to enforce it. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question, Karen?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sure.
Are there any concerns with like pedal power bikes? In terms
Regular old bicycles were only supposed to be ridden on the two main trails, Willow and Sarah Trail, and on the connector trail coming off of Hatton from Flanders. That was the understanding. I'm not sure there was anything that was formally written about that, but that was to avoid erosion problems on the foot trails, because most of the foot trails do not have chips. So if somebody rides a bike of any kind on the pedestrian trails, in wet weather, it will really do damage to those trails. And we spend a lot of time, energy, and money trying to keep those trails safe for pedestrians and walkers. So, but as some kid on a regular pedal bike coming from the high school down through the park to go out to Rio Road, that's probably not the problem we're talking about. We're talking about the EV bikes and any motorcycles, because the EV bikes, a lot of them have big tires, and the mountain bikes is also. Mountain bikes should not be on the pedestrian trails. A lot of the pedestrian trails are marked no bikes. We try to keep those up there because sometimes people rip them off. Or they make new trails right down the face of Martin Meadow. We have had people go onto Martin Meadow, which is environmentally sensitive habitat, and do wheelies, and that's not a good thing. Some of it is treating our preserve with the respect that it should be treated with, too. It's primarily for pedestrians.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was helpful. Thank you.
This has been, oh, go ahead, Cindy, then I'll comment. I waited for you.
Okay, thanks so much, Paul. Cindy Lloyd, I just want to second everything that Karen has said. Having been on the board of the Mission Trail Nature Preserve for a number of years, I'm not anymore, but I have watched the increase in use in that park. Back when I used to walk my dog as a puppy, nobody walked there. It was completely empty, but has become really very popular and overused. And I know that when the pedal bikes were cutting through on the pedestrian pathways going down hills, Greg D'Ambrosio then started putting up little fences, which I think helped a great deal. But definitely no motorized vehicles should be within Mission Trail Nature Preserve at all. Then it would also protect all the walkers with their dogs who do a lot of through hiking. They don't particularly stop there. But I see most of the people walking when I'm up at the Randall Bishop and Robert Bogard benches doing some work around the landscaping, and that's when I see and talk to a lot of the people who are walking through. So anyway, just want to say thanks, Karen, for your voice.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we could do, let's do comments. Then we'll open it back up to the public if anybody wants to add anything after we speak.
Sure. So this is a common issue in many parks. I've been with East Bay Regional Park District, 126,000 acres, and they've had mountain bike trails. One of the things that I did a whole study just last year on e-bikes, and there are different classes of e-bikes. There's class 1, class 2, class 3. Class 1, according to the state, is not considered a motorized vehicle because you have to pedal. It's just a pedal assist. It's not, go, and it can only go up to a certain speed on a class 1. The other classes, we removed that from our parks to say you can't drive these on any of the parks because of safety, public safety, the impacts to the environments on some of the trails that we have. So class 1, and I was just listening, and I definitely want to get clarification that we have paved roads. I haven't walked this yet, and I'm hoping to go for walks with people. Paved trails, is this a paved trail or not?
No, it's wood chips.
So the question is do you want bikes to go in there at all? Number one. I agree with no motorcycles, no fast Class 2, Class 3 e-bikes. That should be an ordinance immediately. But the Class 1, if we're allowing bikes, pedal bikes, then the Class 1 e-bikes, and people who usually the Class 1 e-bikes are those who need that assistance. They're elder, they like to go walking, or they have some kind of injury or something that they just need that additional assistance. So the question I put to the committee is, do we want to just remove bikes access on this trail?
That's a good question. I think I'd like to work with the Mission Trail Nature Preserve to have that discussion, because I know we have allowed pedal bikes. There are a lot of kids who use as a kind of a safe way to get through town, like from school, as you mentioned. So I don't think, and they have to be on certain trails. So I don't think that's the intention of this. The intention is the motorcycle type electric bikes, the 2s and the 3s. And motorcycles. This has been a growing problem here over the years, obviously, as electric bicycles gain popularity. And we see a lot more people cruising around in there. One of our issues has been the complaints coming in, and then I asked the officers to go out and try to enforce whatever, at least have a conversation. We can never catch people. They can't enforce it because our ordinance is dated and doesn't include that. So I agree with you. There are different classes, and obviously as you go up in class, they gain speed and non-pedal power, so they are basically electric motorcycles. It might be easier to have an ordinance that just says no electric vehicles. I think that would be easier to enforce, because if you start leaving enforcement up to determining what's a Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, that's a little bit of a challenge. So there are a lot of kids who also do use electric bikes. They don't even know what they're riding. You know, it could be either of it. So I too have looked at this ordinance ever since these complaints started coming in to see if there's something we can do. Personally, I think the ordinance just needs to be updated as you suggested. I think we can remove belly board, because I have no idea what that is. Belly board, I don't know what that is, and we could probably replace it with EV bicycles or EV vehicles, maybe even, just making it all that. I think we need to do something because it is a continuing problem. I also have a concern, especially Martin Meadow, as we talk about. We have a sign that is this big, like 3 inches by 3 inches, that has a bicycle with a yellow or a red cross through it. That's not effective signage. So we need to improve our signage. We need to update an ordinance that prohibits EV, I would say EV bicycles or EV vehicles in the park, all of it. Yes. And then obviously if we do that, the ordinance has to go to council for a reading and then a second. Signage, if we want to add it here, it might have to go to the Forest and Beach Commission for approval. I'm asking that as a question. I don't. Do you know that, Karen? Do you know if the signage would have to be approved by the Forest and Beach Commission, or is it separate? Okay, I just wouldn't want to put up brand new signage that hadn't been approved. Maybe we add that in the council staff report as something we're adding.
Yes.
I'm just thinking of the beach fire pilot program. All that signage had to be approved too. So it's new signage that has to be approved. But we have to do something, and it starts with the ordinance being changed, updated. And happy to rewrite it, happy to bring it forward for the committee. Happy to do that, and then we can start with the signage as well. That would be my recommendation.
I concur.
With me writing?
Yes.
That would include gas-powered motors.
Gas and electric, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Because that really is dangerous.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. You can do a roll call. Oh, wait, I didn't open it back up to the public. Is there anybody with their hand up or anybody want to speak to this again? Okay,
No one with their hand up either.
roll call.
Okay. Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion is passed.
We're getting through this. All right. The last item is to review a request for no parking signs on the south side of 7th Avenue between Carmelo Street and San Antonio Street. This was sent to me as a request by the neighborhood because of the increased traffic we're seeing, and they actually included some photos to me, and they've asked us to go down the street on weekends. It gets very narrow. And normally, this is very much like any other street in our village. At certain times, they get very narrow, but this one gets really tight, and part of it is this curbing that we have on the south side, which is pretty far out into the road and narrows it already. And then when cars start parking here, like that trailer all the way down, it gets extremely narrow. And I know we can do parking on one side, but I just don't think cars fit on both sides. So I have a couple questions and a couple thoughts on this, but I want to open it up to the rest of the committee to take a look and fire away. Or is the complainant here with us? Is there anybody here to speak on this item or online?
No, not online.
Okay. Do you have any initial comments or thoughts on this, Ken or Anna?
Not just yet. I'm just trying to get my bearings on this visual. Rob, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it looks like we have one on the southeast corner.
No parking?
No parking sign, so we could add possibly one per property on these little islands.
Do you know, that curb's been there for a while, right? Or is it new?
Yeah, it's probably 4 or 5 years.
And we always have discussions about city easement and improvements out on it. And that would be my only question, was this approved? Is this something that, like,
Yes,
maybe the council
this
needs
was
to
a
look at?
permanent encroachment permit
Okay.
when we removed the drainage line that used to discharge right here and continued this rock wall, retaining wall, that this was installed at the same time.
Okay.
Just so I'm clear, the question is about, or the challenge is because if cars on both sides, the street's narrow and gotcha.
Correct, yeah.
You either make it a one-way or yeah.
There's curbing that was put in on the south side, probably for runoff reasons, which it doesn't allow people to park up on the dirt in that easement part. So now they're parking in the street, and it gets really narrow. We can't get emergency vehicles down there, and that's always like kind of a primary concern.
Right.
I hate giving up parking in town.
Right, that's my guess.
But we have done this in the past in other residential areas where it's just way too narrow to have parking on both sides. For me, I'm more in favor of posting no parking signs on the south side to prevent parking on that side. And I think that takes care of the problem.
I agree.
Especially after looking at it. And if you go down there on a weekend, it's bad.
But we also have to consider adding 1 or 2, because as you know, when we did Santa Rita with the arrows, there was no end, so people didn't know exactly where the no parking limits were. So would we want 2 on each of these islands, 1 at the beginning and 1 at the end?
I think that would be a wise idea.
I agree with that. Did you have a comment, Anna? Sorry.
I just had a question. Do you know roughly how many spaces would be lost?
See if we can find a picture with a lot of cars.
oh, the curb's not there.
Yeah.
2014.
That was the trolley sign, remember when we had the trolley?
But you see, you can get cars in there, and it's been moved out, and we have that curb now. Even up here, there was no curb at the time. And that's causing the problem.
And why did the curb go in?
I don't know, Rob, why did it go in?
It was just drainage improvements.
Yeah, that's my recommendation, is to add no parking posts, and we'll have to do multiple ones along that block. We can't just do 2. It's probably going to be at least 4, and maybe even 5 or 6. And we won't have parking on the south side.
So it's probably roughly 6, 8 spaces, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
6 or 8.
6
spaces,
to 8.
yeah.
2, 4, 6.
That's really narrow right there.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody, you want to second that, or you want to make a separate motion? You don't want to touch it, do you?
Yeah.
I get the public safety and getting trucks down there, especially our fire trucks.
Yeah.
And you can just see it, how closed in that could be so quickly. Yeah, I guess I'll second your motion.
You didn't open it to the public.
I know, I realized after I said that. Thank you, Karen, keeping us honest. All right, let's open up to the public.
My only comment is, if the curb was put in by the city, that's one thing. If the homeowner put it in, did they have a permit to put it in? Because maybe they created the problem. So I think that there's a couple things that might need answered.
Before making a decision.
You know, if you create a problem where people can't park in the public right-of-way, which is what it's for, that and landscaping, you can't then say you have a problem. So maybe it was that the city put it in and it was done for a good reason. But if, you know, we have an awful lot of things that appear around this city without permits and then become permanent.
Yes, I think that's why I had asked Rob that question, if he knew if that had been a permitted project. Because that's generally what we hear in council, is the appeals for easement encroachments, right? And that's definitely an encroachment on the easement. That's why I was wondering if that was a project, but it sounded like it was a city project that you remember, as we fixed the drainage there.
We did.
So it was a permitted project.
When we, yes, we installed the storm drain down San Antonio to 8th.
All right.
Mayor Byrne, speaking as a resident. I think that was a new house, right? That was a major house renovation. And it seemed to go in as that house was being finished, unless I'm mistaken, because I drive by there all the time. They did a really nice job on the house, but all of a sudden those elephant toe curbs showed up. It almost appeared like it was part of their project, but maybe not. This sort of surfaces another project or problem that I think I submitted, but I don't think it made the agenda. Is this sort of thing is happening all over town. It's not unique to that particular street, especially with the construction that's going on. If you drive down San Antonio on any given day, there's like 3 construction projects and they're on both sides of the street. And you sometimes have to wait quite a while to get through because the construction trucks are double parked on top of it. So I think this is something that needs to be revisited. I've been pushing since I was doing my projects in town to have some kind of limit on how many projects can happen in a particular geography. And I've been turned down many times, but I've got to believe that there's something we can do in the planning department, because this is going to become a major problem, because there's unlimited water right now. The cities aren't responding to it, but
our representative for the water district told me that we could hand out as much water as unlimited water. So if everybody wanted to add a new bathroom in town, there's water for it, and we could hand it out right now. We're not doing it, neither is any other city, but it's going to happen. And when that happens, there could be 100 projects all at once. So this is going to be a big issue. Also, anybody that needs water for an ADU can just walk in over the counter and get water. And we don't have to go through a formal process, so those projects could happen quickly. So this is something we need to think about. So if not this meeting, it's not agendized. So this should be something either at the Planning Commission or with this committee. It's going to be an issue. Also, I had a meeting in Monterey, city business. I didn't get to do a public comment. I noticed that the dirt pile at 5th and San Carlos wasn't agendized, which is part of that whole, and it's a problem. And then also the dirt pile that you previously approved to remove on Lincoln, just north of 8th, is still there, and it's just an inconvenience for everybody.
Okay.
I think it's been approved, and we just need to get a tractor over there and move the dirt and do a little paving. So I'm sorry to do it out of sequence, but I missed my...
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, this is more relaxed because we're a committee. We didn't agendize some of the items you had because it was just making the agenda too long. Sure. We try to keep these pretty short, but those will be agendized for the next meeting. It was just to separate them a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just thinking at the same time you're doing all those other changes at that intersection, you might want to take a close look at it.
Okay.
Sorry to use my time.
Thank you. Well, that wasn't me. That's great. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, so my question before do we want to make sure that this was a permitted project and have that like documentation to show that it was permitted to do, or before we make a motion, come back next time with a recommendation based on that? Because if it wasn't permitted and maybe the residents put that curbing in, they did create the problem. Therefore, we have an easement issue, which we can reclaim some of that area.
Yes.
Okay. That'll be my recommendation. We find the permit for this to see what was approved by the city, and if it was approved or wasn't, we'll come back at the next meeting with a new recommendation based on that.
So did you strike that first motion?
Yes, strike the first one.
I concur, yes.
Okay.
Paul Tomasi,
Yes.
Rob Culver,
Yes.
Anna Ginette,
Yes.
Ken Wysocki.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion is passed.
All right, that was all of our items. That is it. That concludes our meeting. We have the next meeting is August 27th at 1:30 p.m. right here. And thank you all for attending and your comments. Thank you.